Raul is your ugly, pathetic loser working at an electronics store after failing to pass the hero exam. His life changes when the cute daughter of Demon Lord arrives to work in the same store. With this chance, Raul decides to clap her and become the next Demon Lord. However, before any of this, Raul is working in the Leon Magic Shop and informs the customers about the new washing machine they have at their stores. He talks about how it is strong enough to destroy a monster, making the customers lose their interest. Nova tells Raul that he needs to work on his sales skills or his hourly wage won't be increasing anytime soon. She then starts working and Raul mentions how her plot is visible but gets interrupted when a Discord moderator asks him about cassette tapes.
What?
That guy informs the other people waiting outside and they all start rushing into the store, taking advantage and pressing themselves against Nova as well. He keeps on selling the magical tapes until the store is out of stock. Nova complains about the number of customers they had to deal with, but Raul says something like this only happened once a year. Nova then wonders why everyone wanted to buy one and Raul replies that the magical tape company stopped producing them and their store still had some leftovers. Afterward, Raul informs a customer that they are out of stock, but he starts telling Raul to call the manager. Sierra decides to walk away, leaving Raul to deal with him. He then shows Raul a resume and their manager arrives at the same time. Apparently, he came to apply for a part-time job. Upon reading the resume, Raul gets shocked. Following that, he informs the manager, Sierra, that the person applying for the job is the child of the Demon Lord. Fino questions how Raul found out and Raul replies that she had clearly written about it on the resume. Surprisingly, Sierra doesn't see this as a problem and announces that Fino will be starting a part-time job at their shop. However, Raul isn't really happy with this decision and questions why he has to help the Demon Lord's child. With that being said, Raul starts explaining his responsibilities and Fino gets distracted after seeing a TV for the first time. Fino then brags about how his dad had one in his room where all the trapped humans would scream, but Raul replies that it was a cursed mirror and not a TV. Finona begins cleaning the store while Raul watches the news about people celebrating the Demon Lord's demise, and he thinks about how it has been 2 years since he was defeated. Because of his defeat, the hero program was suspended and Raul, who wanted to become a hero, was back at square one as all the fighting skills he learned were useless in the new world. Following that day, Fino wonders why the customers are running away and Raul replies that it is because of her ugly face. However, suddenly, a dragon cart stops outside the shop and an old geezer enters the shop. Without purchasing anything, he goes straight towards Nova and exposes her rice cakes. Fino goes to confront him, but he puts forward a light bulb. After he leaves, Raul informs Fino that the old fart only buys a light bulb, but Nova comments on how creepy he is. Fino misunderstands touching way of communication and asks them to touch hers as well. During break time, Raul is having lunch when the restaurant employee, Lamdimi, arrives and asks him the reason he looks so depressed. But Raul asks her to leave him alone, and just then, Elsa arrives and wonders how Raul can eat the same thing every day. Raul replies that it doesn't bother him and she takes a seat next to him, asking Raul about the new rice cooker. He says the product is way too good for their back alley store to have one. Following that, he walks away, giving him some free salad for free. Meanwhile, Sierra and Visor are having a discussion when he notices the new girl that Sierra hired. On the other hand, Raul tells Fino that she needs to speak politely to the customers, which is something she doesn't understand. Raul suggests practicing and decides to act as a customer. Sadly, she doesn't get it and starts acting like the true Demon Lord successor that she is. He eventually stops Fino, but she mentions how she was copying her father's way as he was nice and respectful. Having no other choice, he gives her a manual about customer service. Later, he takes Fino to the room where the products owned by customers that need to be repaired are stored. She gets excited after seeing a humidifier for the first time and pours some magic into it, causing it to explode and knock Fino out. He then takes Fino to another room and starts zipping down the hoodie, only for a pair of talents to come out. She wakes up at the same time and starts throwing things at Raul while he is surprised to find out that Fino is actually a girl. Luckily, he manages to explain his intentions, causing Fino to calm down. Later that day, Fino wears the shop uniform for the first time and starts laughing until Raul hits her, mentioning how her laugh is enough to give someone trauma. While the two of them are standing outside, an old lady compliments Fino for working hard and she asks Raul the correct way to respond, thanking the lady afterward. Later that day, Raul tells Elsa about the new employee and notices that someone is still at the store. He walks inside, only to see Fino taking a bath. She tells Raul that she is currently homeless and will be living at the store for a while. Raul is curious about why she isn't freaking out after being seen, and Fino replies that her pumpkins are currently covered with foam, barely. He then notices Fino using dishwashing liquid to wash her hair and asks her to wash it instantly. Following that, he helps Fino dry her hair with a hair dryer. Fino comments on how she wouldn't have found out about the amazing human technology if her father hadn't kicked the bucket. She then comments on her being anxious about visiting the human world and thanks Raul for helping her out. Raul walks out of his house and runs into his neighbor, who is supplying magic to the meter outside his house. He wishes there was a device that could store magic for a long time instead of 24 hours, so they can use the appliances without worry. Apparently, it has been over a century since magic items that convert mana into energy were created, and now people can't live without them. Traffic and streetlights, city infrastructure, and many other things are working magically. Raul eventually arrives at his workplace and notices Fino sleeping. Her blanket fell off, exposing her plot. He freaks out, exiting the room, which wakes her up. Afterward, Fino shows Raul her customer handling skills, but he doesn't seem to like them at all. Their training is interrupted by Visor, and Fino gets suspicious after seeing him. But Raul to destroy the display models. Visor then uses a skill called magic syntax on the hair dryer, which surprises Fino. Raul elaborates that humans have to imprint magical syntax on magical items so they can use them. He further reveals that Visor is a magic engineer. It is a job where one writes compact syntax into items. Fino finds it fun, but Visor reveals that it is not fun at all, as he was frustrated with his previous job and wanted to quit and tells Raul if his dream was to work at this place, but he refuses and doesn't inform her about his actual dream. Visor then informs them that whoever was using the hairdryer was using more magical powers than required. Fino questions if it was her fault, but Visor replies that the fault lies with the manufacturer. Later, Elsa is cleaning her store when she notices Fino looking at the magazine. Following that, Raul customer. He eventually explodes and suggests she learn the 8 basic phrases. But Fino argues that she can't learn so quickly, and Raul ends up grabbing her, resulting in Fino making some Turns out he was writing those phrases on her hand and asked her to remember them. Afterward, Raul cleans and thinks about how dealing with the Demon Lord's daughter is not in with him, and he decides to do his original Raul / Then, Eri runs into Raul and questions if he got a job at the magic store and how he is going to become a hero. He tries to asks if he would just give up on his dreams and comments on how disappointed she is to call him her rival. Back in the shop, Nova is dealing with a creepy geezer while Fino is learning the 8 phrases when suddenly, a weird-looking man out of fear. Later, everyone is talking about the incident, and Nova mentions how she didn't even notice the thief. Sierra claps for the two of them, making Fino a little embarrassed. After work, Raul is having dinner with his friends, and they tell Raul that normal work doesn't satisfy them as they are shooting to become heroes. They believe that heroes will be needed sometime in the future, which is why they will keep being hero dreams, and thinks about his own decisions as well. He then returns to the shop and notices Fino sleeping, along with the notebook on which she practiced all the phrases. Soon after, Fino wakes up and takes the rest of them as well, and Raul claps for her along with congratulations, hero, and wants to try achieving it in his own way. Fino is sleeping peacefully when the weird alarm starts going off. Raul gets out of his room and asks her to stop it, only to see her completely commando. He then runs back to his room and brings one of his t-shirts for her. Turns out she moved next to his apartment, and now they are on their way to work. Fino informs him that Sierra also gave her plot to her, making him replay the wet dream he had. She then thanks Raul for lending the t-shirt, and he stops her from smelling it. After arriving at work, Raul confronts Sierra to make Fino live next to him. Sierra replies that the rent was really cheap and she feels better if Raul is there. However, Raul still doesn't agree, and Sierra reassures him that even if he makes a move on her, she'll accept him at work. Just then, Visor arrives, telling Sierra that they need to go. Later, Fino draws a bloody promotion drawing on the floor, but Raul asks her to make another one. Soon after, an old granny arrives and gives them a fan that stopped working. Raul mentions how it might be past its working point, and the granny replies that she really liked the fan. Fino asks Raul if there is any way they can fix it and starts mentioning her dad's bad advice. Eventually, Raul agrees to check the fan but doesn't promise if they can fix it. He tries opening the fan, but a girl snatches the screwdriver, commenting on how a loser shouldn't be touching that. Fino starts confronting her while Raul recognizes her as Lore. Raul informs Fino that Lore is a part of the staff and mainly takes care of deliveries and maintenance work. She tells the granny that they can fix it, making her grateful. Later, Sierra and Visor are at a meeting where they inform the two of them that their customer satisfaction is the highest among all the chains, but they got the lowest sales. Visor replies that they are trying to increase them, and Gil replies that they always say the same thing. Meanwhile, Elsa introduces herself to Fino, and she recommends the famous carriage to Fino. Without any hesitation, Fino decides to buy them, and just then, Lamdimia arrives, and Raul introduces Fino. But she looks at her in a weird way and decides to ignore them, making Raul curious if something happened to her. After that, they return to the store and Eri pays him a visit. He questions the reason for her visit and Eri replies that she is just out shopping. Following that, Raoul asks Eri about her life and she replies that she is now sort of a civilian hero. He congratulates her but Eri replies that things are really great and she needs to purchase things she needs to fight the demon. Raoul wonders why she is fighting as the war is over but Eri believes that demons are brutal monsters that they need to fight. Suddenly, Fino arrives and after taking a good look at Eri's appearance, she concludes that she must be there to lodge a complaint. She starts yapping about how a person who complains could ruin the shop and almost reveals herself to be the daughter of a demon lord but Raoul stops her. He tells Eri that Fino does say some crazy stuff from time to time. Eri comments on how the two of them get along pretty well and reassures him that she wasn't here to file a complaint. Fino admits her mistake and decides to apologize in the great demon lord ways but Raoul stops her while Eri watches the two of them and later walks away. Later, Raoul and the others are checking out an air purifier and Nova wonders why the corporation sent this to them. Elsa also arrived as she wanted to see the new product. Furthermore, she is curious about the brand as Elsa has never heard of it. Raoul remembers seeing it on Shark Tank and decides to turn it on. Fino then tries to start it, resulting in smoke coming out along with monstrous hands that are desperate to check out Elsa's plot. She is confused by what's happening and Fino doesn't see anything wrong with it as well. With that being said, Raoul picks up a broom and attacks the hands but they end up regrowing and attacking him. At the same time, Eri also appears and easily takes care of those hands. Lore says that it is the witch's hand which is a phenomenon that happens when a magical item goes out of control. He asks Lore to fix it but she refuses as the fundamental issues are bad to begin with. However, it could be avoided by turning off the device. This results in Eri taking the broom from Raoul and attacking the witch's hands, freeing the girls. Unfortunately, they manage to restrict Amy's movement and begin to enjoy the blondie, starting off by removing her clothes. Fino runs at the witch's hand and tries saving Eri, mentioning that she should always put the customer's safety first. The witch's hands then start testing its kinks on Fino as well when suddenly, they all disappear. Turns out, Raoul has taken out his Walmart lightsaber and made some cool moves to destroy the witch's hands. Amy informs Fino that his sword inflicts damage that the opponent can't heal. Suddenly, the witch's hands manage to capture Eri again and Raoul asks Fino if she can't use any magic. But Fino replies that she hasn't awakened her powers and Raoul notices that her eyes are not red as well. Amy advises Raoul to attack from behind and Fino distracts the witch's hands while Raoul moves behind it and powers up his attack. He then sends a slash towards the air filter, and Fino uses this chance to turn off the device. Afterward, Raoul thinks how he still has what it takes to become a hero and Fino starts praising him for doing something so cool. Fino then meets up with Eri and she keeps on revealing her demonic upbringing, only for Raoul to cover it up. Fino is selling a product to a customer and she agrees to buy the product as well. Raoul and Nova get excited seeing Fino sell her first product. The customers then wonder which color she should pick and Fino recommends the pink color that she ends up loving. However, Fino then messes up by matching body parts with the colors, making the customer run away. Raoul then confronts her but Fino doesn't realize what she did wrong. He questions Fino how she could compare the colors to inner body parts and she replies that it is normal for her to see them every day. Later, Elsa asks Raoul and Fino to help her out at the store as the other employees are on sick leave. This is the only branch of their store in the city and she won't receive help until tonight. Just then, Cira arrives and agrees to help her, commenting on how they are neighbors. Visor asks if they will be getting paid and would receive uniforms and she agrees. Cira wants to help out as well and when Visor asks her the reason, she replies that the uniforms are pretty cute. However, Visor refuses to let her work and in the end, Cira asks Fino if she would take the job. But she refuses to work at another place which results in Elsa tearing up and asking Fino if she hates her store that much. Afterward, Raoul and Fino talk about how Cira must take this job but Raoul replies that she will just mess it up, making Cira make her presence known. Following that, Elsa is taking Fino's pictures as her doing this job is something to remember. Landimia tells Fino that she doesn't have to be so nervous as her responsibility is most register work. Meanwhile, Raoul is working at his store and worrying about how Fino might be doing. Nova comments on how he looks like a father worrying about his daughter. Elsewhere, Fino is trying to sell some noodles and gives the customer the most disgusting explanation until Elsa shuts her mouth, commenting on how she is like how Landimia was in the past. This makes her remember Landimia talking about wanting to turn humans into skewers. Back in the present, Elsa thinks that Fino likes talking about horror movies and tells her that customers might now like the same thing and could get mad. On the other hand, Raul is alone at the store with Nova and notices how awkward the atmosphere. While checking the hottie out, he notices her earring and Nova catches him staring at her. Raul makes an excuse about how there are no customers and everything seems so quiet. This makes him realize that it must be because Fino is not present. Elsewhere, Fino is busy working at the counter and asks to heat a customer's lunch. However, Fino starts hesitating until Lemdimia encourages her and helps Fino microwave the food. Elsa then notices her forcing things into a small bag and asks her to use a bigger one. Fino is impressed by Elsa's work but ends up putting 2 products in a huge bag. Meanwhile, the old fart once again touches Nova's rice cakes and decides to buy 2 light bulbs instead of 1 this time. Following that, Raul asks Nova if she doesn't mind that Baldy touching her plot, but surprisingly, she doesn't. She agrees to give Raul a chance as well but walks away when a customer arrives. He starts staring at her talents when Visor arrives, advising him to keep things under control. Later, Raul takes a break and decides to pay Fino a visit. Elsa wonders if he visited because he was worried about Fino, but Raul replies that he just came to buy lunch. Raul then notices her working without messing things up and Elsa starts teasing Raul for being worried about his junior. He then tries the food that Fino warmed and praises it, making Elsa tease him even more. Back in the shop, Raul is still thinking about touching Nova's cheeks, while Elsa is teaching Fino how to make oden. However, Fino ends up adding an unreal amount of all the ingredients, but what's even more surprising is that Lemdimia ends up liking it. Elsa then takes a bite and enjoys the flavor as well. Shockingly, Lemdimia then comments on how they need to stick to the store's oden and Fino tries to argue. But Lemdimia replies that they can't be selfish and do whatever they want. She then suggests Fino use the store's recipe and she agrees. Elsewhere, Raul still can't get the rice cakes out of his mind and starts panicking when Nova gets a little too close to him. Meanwhile, Eri is shopping at the convenience store and is surprised to see Fino working there. She lets Eri know that she is only helping out and how Raul complimented her uniform, making Eri mention how he never compliments her. On the other hand, the tension between Raul and Nova starts to increase and he breaks the ice by complimenting her earring. She informs Raul that her ear piercing hurts, so she is forced to wear clip-ons. Nova then comments on how she never expected Raul to notice as she only talked about work. Elsa is teaching Fino the art of making coffee and informs her that she used to live in the middle of nowhere and read a lot of magical item catalogs and learned about all the things she had never seen. Fino mentions how she can become a boss with her knowledge level, but Elsa doesn't want to sell those products but buys them instead. Later, Fino tells Lemdimia how she has learned a lot of things while working at Lawson and Lemdimia suggests working at their store instead. But Fino refuses as Raul is waiting for her return but is still glad that she got to work with Lemdimia and Elsa as they both are really nice people. At night, everyone is eating the oden that Fino made and everyone ends up liking the taste. She then makes some coffee for Raul, making him surprised as she can now use magical items. Fino asks Raul what is meant by hello, and he informs her that it is something they say when they pick up a phone. He further informs her that everyone starts off the conversation with this word, surprising Fino about the fact that humans don't talk about their favorite kind of hell. Raul starts yelling at her, which results in Visor arriving and being shocked about the fact that not a single customer has arrived. He starts freaking out and comments on how it is the first day when they didn't have any customers. Fino then comments on how she made the store extra nice by adding a poison swamp at the entrance which deals damage to whoever walks into it. He realizes that this is the reason no customer is arriving and asks her to remove it at once. Fino then suggests doing some gardening and adding some man-eating plants instead. Meanwhile, the old man is at Lawson and starts feeling up Lemdimia, resulting in her teaching him a lesson. After a while, Raul manages to fill the poison swamp and Visor starts asking Fino to stand outside the store and attract customers by wearing a Makima cosplay. Just then, Sira arrives and informs that Amada Magic opened a new store in the capital, which is the reason no one is at their shop. Raul further mentions that Amada's running a grand opening sale. Fino gets curious about Amada and Lore lets her know that they are the biggest in the business and have 56 total stores. Raul mentions how this could cause them to run out of business and Fino starts crying and mentioning how she loves this place. Eventually, Sira decides to hold a meeting to discuss this issue. With that being said, they all go out to a restaurant and Fino offers to help the owner, but Raul brings her back to the table. Sira then shows them Amada's sale flyer and notices that all the items are super cheap. Visor starts to give up, but both Sira and Raul are still motivated to come up with a solution. Raul is the first one to come up with a solution and suggests making a flyer, but everyone finds it really obvious. Afterward, it's Fino's turn and she plans to offer a sacrifice in exchange for prosperity. But hearing Sira agree with this plan makes Visor realize that can never win. In the end, Visor suggests scouting Amada's stores that might give them some ideas. Sira suggests Raul and Fino visit their store while dressed in something that doesn't make them look like employees. Back at home, Raul is having a thoughts about Fino in his swimsuit when someone knocks on his door and he notices a golem standing outside. Apparently, it was Fino who dressed up like this so no one could recognize her. However, Raul rejects this costume and sends her away. The next day, all the bunny girls of Amada's are lined up and Eri is one of them. Eventually, the store opens and everyone starts entering. Fino and Raul are present there as well, but she ends up getting lost in the crowd. At the same time, all Amada's employees are working hard to sell their stuff to the customers. Raul wonders why Fino dressed up like that and she replies that it is a uniform for the Capital Academy. Meanwhile, some hot bunny girls impress some men and Fino gets excited, making Raul advise her to not stand out. But Fino doesn't want to give up and begins crawling and making her way to the meat stand. At the same time, Elsa runs into Raul and mentions that he always turns her down but agrees to go out with Fino, further commenting that he must be a creep to go after girls, but Raul disagrees, saying that he is here for work. Soon after, Lamdimia also arrives and tells Elsa about the magic bakery. This results in a worker talking to Lamdimia and asking her name. Unfortunately, he ends up mispronouncing it, making Lamdimia crush his nuts. Elsa then starts asking him about all the functions that equipment might have, and seeing him hesitate, he decides to take him away, telling Raul to go out with her next time. On the other hand, Fino finishes eating meat and Raul advises her to be a little quieter as they need to be undercover. She then holds his hands, saying that she is acting like his girlfriend, which makes Raul freak out. Afterward, Fiona asks Raul about what a girlfriend is and they run into a granny who is having trouble finding the air conditioner section. He begins explaining but eventually agrees to show her the way. She then thanks Raul and the two of them are on their way back when Fino questions why no one helped the lady even when there were so many workers. Raul replies that big stores have employees designated to a specific area and don't talk to customers outside it. Elsewhere, the manager of Amada's is teaching the bunny girls to strip every piece of gold from the customers and scolds Eri for messing up. Meanwhile, Gil and Eric paid the shop a visit and talked about how the corporation is reconsidering their store after a drop in profit margins. At the same time, Fiona accidentally reveals to an Amada employee that they are undercover until Raul fixes her mistake. The worker then informs about the camera that Fino seems to like and Raul is surprised as he didn't have any idea about the camera's features. Fino then thanks him for the information and the worker hands over his card to Raul, introducing himself as Seal. Later, the Amada is having a concert to celebrate their opening. Surprisingly, Raul and Fino are also there to watch the concert. Fino starts teasing him about being his girlfriend and he freaks out, resulting in him bumping into Eri, who is dressed up as the wannabe Mai Sakurajima. Both Raul and Eri are surprised after running into each other and he asks her about her work. Eri replies that she's handling security, but seeing her costume makes him think otherwise. Raul then asks if she is really doing security and comments on how he was sure that a nerd like her would secure a respectable job. Eri then replies that she had chosen a high salary job but couldn't last more than 3 months as she had to lie to people. She then reflects on how a hero is wearing this embarrassing dress and is forced to bow in front of whale-looking weaves. Fino asks Eri if she hates the job and if making customers happy doesn't fulfill her, and Eri replies that this isn't something she should be doing. This reminds Raul of his early days at work. On the other hand, Visor is talking to Eric about how they should start copying Amada's techniques when they arrive at the distributing company. Eri then wonders what the two of them are doing at Amada, and Fino mentions how she has become Raul's girlfriend and they are now living together. He tries to clear up the misunderstanding, but Eri concludes that he must be after Fino. Eventually, they tell her how Fino is pretending to be his girlfriend and Eri takes a sigh of relief, mentioning how a person with a negative aura can never get a girlfriend. Fino then asks Eri to show them around as it will be easy, considering how she already works there. She eventually agrees and they stumble upon a figurine machine where Fino recognizes one of the demons, forcing Raul to shut her mouth. Afterward, Fino tests out a massage chair and makes the kinds of noises one should keep in their bedroom. Then they check the biggest TV and some of the dragon carts. Later, Fino enjoys a slide while Eri asks Raul the reason he got a job as he wanted to chase his dream. Their conversation is interrupted when a geezer touches Eri's peaches, making her mad, but she is forced to be polite towards him. Just then, Fino arrives and starts confronting the man. Raul also joins the arguments and pops some balloons without touching them, making the old fart run away. Just then, the manager along with Seal arrives and Seal recognizes Raul from Leon's capital store. Meanwhile, the distributing company employee shows Sierra and the others the monster who is working at the factory. Apparently, these monsters are pretty cheap and perfect for simple jobs. Suddenly, one of the monsters kicks the bucket and Sierra mentions how cruel this is. Eric then asks to form a relationship with their company, but they refuse as they become a part of the Amada group. Elsewhere, the manager comments on how Leon Group is not really their competitor. Seal then offers Raul a job and promises some extra benefits. However, Raul replies that they didn't do enough research on him as he gets more excited when the opponent is someone strong. Nonetheless, the manager comments on how Leon could never beat them, but Raul advises them to never take courage, hard work, and will of others for granted. With that being said, the manager walks away and Raul decides to leave as well. Before they walk away, Seal mentions how the camera they liked is only sold at Amada and offers them to come buy it later. Back at the store, everyone talks about how bravely Raul confronted Amada's manager and they all clap for him. Visor then mentions how they are in an all-out war with Amada, making Raul regret his decision. Visor is worried about their future and Sierra suggests working as hard as they can. The next day, Raul is forced to wear a Leon Company mascot and stand outside to attract more customers. He starts to argue, but Sierra mentions that Fino will be helping him out as well. Following that, the two of them are distributing flyers in the town when Raul notices Amada's advertisement on TV. Suddenly, a truck containing the bunny girls, including Eri, passed by. Just then, the old lady from Amada's shop runs into them and asks if they work at a magic shop as well. She then decides to visit their shop and Raul shows her the air conditioners they have on display. He explains all the information in detail and the old lady decides to buy one. Raul then asks Lore to install the AC, but she is heading to Suinoya. However, he decides to take her work and asks Lore to install the air conditioner instead. Later, he and Fino are on their way to Suinoya and Raul informs her how their store replenishes people's tanks who aren't born with magic. Apparently, they are the only ones who do it for free. At Suinoya, Nova mentions how she tried refilling the tank but couldn't. Fino starts messing around and looking at the party products they offer. Raul starts scolding him until the owner tells everyone that Raul used to do the same, making him embarrassed. Afterward, Raul tries refilling the tank but it doesn't work. He then tries giving it another go but it doesn't work and Fino decides to do it. Suddenly, a magic eater emerges from the tank. She manages to take it out and the magic eater explodes. Raul mentions how it is a smile that eats magic, which is the reason the tank wasn't filling up. He then mentions that Fino most likely provided so much magic that the slime couldn't handle it. The shop owner wonders why it came to her shop when her phone starts ringing. Turns out Lore is on the phone and calls for Raul. Lore calls Raul to the old granny's house where he notices an Amada truck. The old lady informs Raul that her son went out and bought one from Amada, resulting in a double booking. Raul explains to Fino that the lady bought air conditioning from both them and Amada and she doesn't see the harm. The old lady can't believe her son bought one as well and he replies that it was because her boomer brain couldn't handle the information. Raul then tells the lady that she isn't at fault and the Amada driver asks them to quickly make their decision. Her son mentions that they should go with Amada as it is 20,000 gold cheaper, surprising both Raul and Fino. Eventually, her son tells Raul that they will be going with Amada and Raul ends up accepting his choice. The granny apologizes to Raul while her son asks her not to make such mistakes again. This results in Fino bad-mouthing him, but the granny mentions how he is good at heart and she's the one giving him extra pressure by living with him. Just when they are about to leave, the son stops them and asks them to refill the magic meter. Lore then checks the meters and realizes that the air conditioning needs 3 kilobile to work while their meter only provides 1 kilobile. They go inside their house to check out the other appliances they are using and Fino gets excited seeing the products they own. Lore finds out that they are only using the refrigerator and Fino asks him about the kilobile. He replies that each item uses a limited amount of magic and bile is the measurement of it. In the end, Lore doesn't understand the reason and the Amada worker thinks that the wiring might be old. The son wonders if they can fix it and the Amada worker suggests redoing the wiring in the entire house. However, it will cost around 300,000 gold and when they try to cancel the AC order, the worker requests an extra 13,000 gold as the cancellation fee. The son then asks if Raul is gonna do the same but he disagrees. The granny starts getting frustrated and Fino wonders if there isn't anything they can do to help. Lore mentions how the problem is pretty weird as this is a normal house that only uses a refrigerator. She wants to take a look at things again and the Amada employee decides to give them some time as well. While checking the magical items, Fino gets hungry and peeks in the refrigerator only for it to stop working. This gives Lore an idea and she checks the meter, realizing that they are out of magic. She thinks that something must be absorbing the magic and they both realize that it has to be the magic eater. Fino decides to supply some magic but Raul manages to stop her while getting a feel of her curves as well. Lore mentions that if she were to put that much magic, all the appliances at home would fry. However, her guess is that they might be hiding under the ground and Fino takes a look only to find a ton of magic eaters. Lore has a plan to lure them out and starts drawing a magic pattern on the floor. After she is done, Lore asks Fino to keep her magic as low as possible and Fino lights up the pattern. Slowly, all the slimes start coming out of the basement and head towards Fino. They slowly start climbing on top of Fino and end up enveloping her completely. Raul tries to help her out but Fino drags her inside as well and once all of them are absorbed, the combined slime bursts, leaving both of them in shambles. Afterward, The Amada employee returns and the son mentions how they will be taking the AC from Leon instead and accepts the cancellation fee. He then comments on how his mother was right and how the people from Leon are great. This results in the son and mother making up as well, and the granny thanks Raul and the others. Afterward, Fino, Lore, and Raul are enjoying the bathhouse and she starts yelling at Raul to pass her some soap. At shop, everyone enjoys eating dinner and Sierra compliments Raul for working hard. Fino mentions how she did the hard work by getting assaulted by some slimes. Later, Visor mentions that they were able to land a blow on Amada and Sierra adds that it was possible because Raul and the others treated them nicely. They all then hear about Amada's new product on the radio and Sierra comments on how they can't copy Amada but have their own weapons. Later, Raul is taking Fino home who got drunk after drinking the Grimace shake. Back at home, Raul wishes he had an AC as well and goes to sleep when suddenly, Fino enters his room. The next morning, Raul freaks out after finding Fino sleeping on his bed. She then wakes up as well, questioning what Raul is doing in her room. Fino then realizes that she was in Raul's room and it was because of the fan he had. She then starts commenting on how Raul might have made her him furious until his hunger interrupts. He then starts making breakfast while Fino comments on how working at the magic shop is really cool. This reminds Raul of Aries' words of not enjoying her work. Later, they are eating breakfast and Raul finds out that she has been stealing breadcrumbs from the pigeons for breakfast until her payday arrives, making him a little concerned. The two of them are on their way to work, complaining about how hot the weather is. Eventually, they arrive at the store and notice Nova lying on the floor. Apparently, Nova is struggling from the heat that has gotten inside the store as well. Raul thinks that the fire monster might have gotten into the shop. Nova then informs that an arrow frame attacked her. Raul informs Fino that it is a monster composed of heat, but she completely ignores him and enjoys the cool floor. Afterward, Raul thinks about how he needs to cool down Nova's body and reveal her holy plot. Just then, Sierra and Visor arrive, advising Raul to keep his fantasies to his anime body pillow. They all then start to misunderstand Raul's intentions, but eventually agree with what he did, asking Nova if she will be suing Raul. Nova then clarifies that she got lightheaded because of the heat and they make fun of Raul for thinking that a monster got inside the house. However, they don't stop there and keep on bullying him until the end. Following that, Raul informs Fino that Lore is working on the air conditioning but it might take a while. Fino then lies down in the sink, proposing that they should close the shop as it is so hot. Just then, Visor asks for their help and shows them the camping goods they ordered. Raul gets confused as they don't normally sell those and Visor replies that they can't beat Amada by selling the basic. There is a warning about the high temperatures in the city. Even in the weather, the two of them are forced to promote their new stuff outside. Fino starts getting lightheaded and Raul thinks that she should be used to it as the Demon Lord's castle is on a volcano. While staring at Fino, Raul notices that she is not wearing. Fino replies that she took it off. He then starts forcing her to put it on when the electricity starts leaking out. Fino mentions how her magic level might be higher because she is a bit dizzy. She then decides to wash her face and accidentally touches the firework box, resulting in fireworks happening in broad daylight. The two of them then return back to the store looking like homeless people, and the problem is that Fino doesn't have a spare set of clothes. Luckily, Sierra has a spare swimsuit and Fino agrees to wear it right away. They all come out in their swimsuits, giving the boys a treat for their eyes. Slowly, people start gathering around their stalls and making purchases. Meanwhile, Sierra goes to check on Lore and she informs Sierra that the work will be done pretty soon. Furthermore, she would rather be working on the AC than exposing her plot to those monsters. Elsewhere, Nova mentions how much they sold and Raul replies that it would be great if they sold their normal items the same way. Fino then suggests using the portable pool and Sierra allows it as well. Seeing the ladies have fun makes people buy the pool as well. Soon after, Elsa and Lemdimia pay them a visit and Sierra has the perfect swimsuit for them as well. She then asks them for help and Lemdimia teases Elsa for showing Raul her swimsuit. The two of them start attracting customers as well and Raul comments on how his shirt is full of sweat. Later, Elsa mentions how they are not selling their main items at all and Lemdimia decides to lock in and go hot and heavy, making Raul concerned after looking at her surfboard of a body. She then starts announcing that people who buy cameras will be able to take pictures of the employees. Sierra wonders if she should join them but Visor refuses and takes her away. Luckily, Lore is done with the AC and elsewhere. Everyone keeps on buying cameras until they are out of stock. Elsa then tells Raul that people stopped gathering around her after she started showcasing her nerdy side. She then gets a little too close to Raul, asking him to take her photos as well. Just then, Ari arrives and wonders if Raul is a fan of the big ones after seeing Elsa. Apparently, she came to take a look at how Leon's company was doing their work. Lemdimia also appears and mentions how Ari probably likes Raul and will be competing against Elsa. She then asks Ari to wear the same swimsuit, but when she refuses, Raul mentions how she was wearing the bunny girl costume, leaving her no other choice but to wear it along with a mask. A boy tries taking her photo but gets kicked and surprisingly likes the way it feels. Lemdimia ends up making it a deal and all the boys get excited to get kicked by her. Raul tries to stop Lemdimia. Suddenly, Ari's starts coming off, making the customers even more excited. After a ton of pictures, Raul runs into the granny's son, who informs him that he is a reporter and wrote an article on them. He then compliments Leon for their hard work and Raul thanks him. It's finally payday and everyone receives their pay. Apparently, their sales didn't drop even with Amada opening a new branch, and Sierra gave everyone a bonus for their hard work. Fino is excited about her pay and thanks Sierra for it. Raul notices Fino getting excited and remembers the first time he got paid. He then advises Fino to buy something in order to remember this day. Later, everyone is enjoying drinks at a restaurant. Fino is super careful about what he wants to order, but Raul reveals that Sierra always buys them food on their payday. Bizer suggests eating Salisbury steak, but in the end, she decides to get the kids' meal because of the free toy. Nova mentions how the steak Bizer recommended is really tasty, and Fino finds out that there are 180 different types of toys, wanting to buy the kids' meal daily. However, Sierra advises her to take care of basic necessities first and asks Raul to go shopping with her. Sierra gives him a holiday as she would be concerned about Fino going on her own. Back at home, Raul is peeking at Fino's plot and she asks him to show her how it's done, considering how he has so much experience. Raul gets excited for a second, only to find out that she is talking about shopping. Afterward, Fino mentions how she wants to buy a roach trap as cockroaches are disgusting creatures that she hates. He finds them even scarier than her dad when suddenly, a cockroach appears and Fino climbs onto Raul. As the sensual tension between them increases, Fino decides to go home before Raul reveals his rusty meat. The next morning, they both go out and Fino is excited about the shopping trip. Coincidentally, they run into Elsa and Lamdimia, informing them that the two of them are going on a shopping trip. Fino starts teasing Raul, making him walk towards home until she stops him. Elsa comments on how they might be on a date, and Lamdimia adds that Fino should have picked a more handsome dude than a scrawny loser like Raul. Fino then reveals that they are headed towards the dollar shop as everything is so cheap there, and Lamdimia advises her to have fun. Later at the shop, Fino is nervous to go to the checkout counter. Eventually, she gathers the courage and the employee asks her about signing up for a member's card. Fino agrees and starts filling up the form, but starts writing about her demonic bloodline, and Raul tries to stop her, only to realize that she is doing a good job. The employee then gives her the card and Raul figures that Fino has changed. On their way back, Raul thinks about how no one would be able to mistake Fino for the daughter of the Demon Lord. She then mentions that the customers who buy from Leon pay for her salary as well, realizing that everyone is connected and is different from the demonic world. This reminds Raul how he wasn't happy with his job and thought that a hero was supposed to help people. Fino comments on how she wants to buy more stuff and he agrees. They then head towards the open market and Fino starts running away when suddenly a dragon cart appears, but Raul manages to save her in the nick of time. He then advises her not to run like that again and Fino apologizes while her heart skips a beat. A shopkeeper then shows Fino a heart-shaped locket and asks Raul to buy it for his girlfriend, making him drag Fino away. She mentions how someone called her his girlfriend and how good it sounds to be her girlfriend, making him flustered. Later, Raul finds a super popular sword at a shop and says that he really wants to buy one. While he is negotiating with the shopkeeper, Fino goes to the locket shop and buys something. Raul wonders if he should buy the sword and realizes that Fino is missing. He tries looking for Fino all around and eventually finds her dressed up in a pretty wonderful dress. She then asks if the dress looks good and Raul agrees, prompting her to give him a hug. Fino then says that she bought this dress for him and a photographer clicks a photo of them together. Meanwhile, Raul wonders how weird a couple of a hero and a demon looks like. Thinking about this makes his face red and Fino says that buying this dress was her returning the favor for him accompanying her. Turns out she also bought a wood carving of a bear, a flag of Mount Fojixarok, a vase, and a paper lantern. Additionally, she also bought a wallet made out of gold and ended up spending all of her paycheck. Raul then wonders how she will live until her next paycheck and Fino starts regretting her actions. He also accepts his mistake of not keeping an eye on her and notices Fino wanting to eat a crepe. Raul ends up buying it for her and after taking a bite, she comments on how tasty it is. She then asks him to have a bite as well. Following that, Fino asks Raul to close his eyes and gives him a present that she bought as a thanks for all the help he has been providing. Apparently, the thing she bought is a cell phone strap made out of the real hair of the Demon Lord, creeping him out. On their way home, Raul looks at the strap that Fino bought him and suddenly notices some men Fino. They manage to run away and Raul finds her in a beat-down state. Fino then asks Raul if she should become the next Demon Lord and mentions how many people making weapons are out of work because her father was defeated. Raul asks who told her this and Fino replies that it was probably the heroes as they are telling her to become the next Demon Lord. The next morning, Fino tells Raul that his is delicious. Raul thinks, given what happened last night, she is lively. As they start eating, Fino tells him she doesn't care about the past. 1 week later, Raul and Fino are hard at work when Raul notices that everything seems to be going smoothly, or so he thinks. Suddenly, Nova asks him what he is staring at. Raul then inquires whether Nova thinks Fino is putting in enough effort. As they are talking, they observe kids approaching Fino, shouting, "It's the girl who laughs a lot," and Raul is amazed. Nova tells him that the kids came during the summer sale, she is popular, and that her laugh is popular at their school. Nova further says that it makes her jealous as they are coming here to see Fino. Suddenly, an old man touches her inappropriately, saying the sensation of her skin makes him feel young again. However, Raul thinks they are more popular with kids and the elderly. Furthermore, in the Spheres event, Eri goes on the stage. She tells the audience to enjoy shopping before their next mini-concert. Huan on the side notices and tells his fellow that she is going to be of use. On the other hand, Fino's package gets delivered and everyone is curious about what it is. She tells them it is something special, but after opening, it is a treasure chest. As Raul goes ahead to open the treasure chest, a hand comes out and starts dragging him inside. Fino tells them they had this in a dungeon, and if they put them out, dumb heroes get caught in them. She further tells them that she is thinking it'd bring some more customers to the shop if she puts one out in front. Raul manages to slip away discreetly and asks Fino where she got the item. She reveals a fascinating magic book to him. Later, Raul advises Elsa not to give Fino strange things. Elsa explains that Fino had mentioned she is struggling financially. Fino seems to think she could acquire things without paying for them. Later that day, Raul asks Fino if she is acting a little weird. He tells her that he saw her putting in a lot of effort, and now she went and bought a bunch of stuff. He then asks her if she is acting this way because of what happened the other day. Fino says she has been thinking since that day that she doesn't want to be the next demon lord, as her daddy is scary and he did a lot of mean things, not just to humans, but also to weak demons like her mom, and that's the reason she came here. Fino further says that she thought of a way for her to avoid becoming the next demon lord and that she is going to be the boss instead. Raul asks her, which does she think is more powerful, the boss or the demon lord? Moreover, Raid comes to the store, telling Lemdimia that it's been a long time. They both then go to the roof, and Lemdimia tells him that it's been 2 years. He then tells her that he wants her to help him get Fino to be the next demon lord. She quickly refuses, but Raid says he wouldn't expect those words from her. He then shows her a bloodstone, telling her that Fino should inherit this. Lemdimia gets mad at him, asking him who cares about humans and demons anymore as the demon lord is gone. However, Blaze and Clan come to Raul's store, asking him if he has some time right now. While having their lunch, they tell him that the hero system is coming back soon and that they will get to be heroes. Raul is shocked to hear this and he asks them why now. They tell him that the demon lord is coming back. Raul is shocked and says that he can't believe he got a replacement. Blaze then tells him not to play dumb, as he is talking about the demon lord's daughter, Fino Bloodstone. Raul asks them how they know that, and they say that it seems like the two were getting along pretty well at the market. After realizing it, Raul quickly stands up asking if that was them. On the other hand, Fino is sitting all sad when Lemdimia asks her why she does not seem to be happy. Fino tells her that things just don't seem to be going well. On the other hand, Blaze tells Raul how devastated he was when he lost his dream and that they will bring back the demon lord themselves and set this world right. As Fino is walking alone, suddenly a black cart comes and someone kidnaps her. When Raul gets back, he starts looking for her and Nova tells him that she hasn't come from lunch yet. She is supposed to be next door, but she is a little late. He then starts looking everywhere when he finds her newspaper. Back in the dark castle, Fino is being held captive, and when she asks Raid if this is how he is going to treat her, he replies that there is no reason for her to return to Leon as she needs to return to the throne of the demon world instead. Suddenly, Blaze enters the room, telling her that he is in the hero prep school. It's their school, the one that was shut down because her dad was taken out. He then shows Fino a picture, telling her that Raul wanted to be a hero as well. Raul wonders why someone would kidnap Fino. He then tells others that it is his friends from the hero prep school. Back in the prep school, Raid has the bloodstone. She realizes it's her father's amulet, but treasure passed down through the demon lord's family line. Once it's activated, she will be able to mentally dominate any demons weaker than herself and control them. On the other hand, Raul starts running, getting flashbacks when Blaze told him that they would bring back the demon lord themselves. As Raul arrives at the hero prep school and enters its halls, he spots Blaze sitting there. Blaze expresses disbelief that Raul has come to rescue the demon lord's daughter. Pulling out a sword, he calls Raul an idiot. Raul is taken aback to see Blaze with a sword and asks how he managed to afford it. Blaze explains that he has a sponsor who provided them with an advance, anticipating their future as heroes. He then attacks Raul, but Raul manages to escape. Blaze further tells him that the daughter is a pain too. Things would be a lot easier if she had just become the next demon lord already, but she wouldn't. He then picks up the sword and says that this is the thing he works best with right now. Later, Raoul goes to Fino, realizing that this place is a replica of the entrance to the Demon Lord's castle, and it's the place where you take the final exam to become a hero. Raid also figures that Blaze has lost and tells Klein that a new challenger has arrived. As Raoul tries his best to free her, suddenly Eri arrives there. She then tells him that she came here to defeat the daughter of the Demon Lord. As Fino asks her the reason, Eri replies that demons eliminated her family and that she would eliminate all the demons. They both start battling when Eri comments that he knew she was the Demon Lord's daughter all along and yet he kept hiding it from her. Raoul tells Fino that for a long time, Eri has known her reason for fighting and he knew that she wouldn't stop with a few words either. Eri asks him if he is holding back with that ruler and Raoul says he thinks she has gotten weaker. He then knocks her into the sky, telling her to come at him with everything and then he'll reciprocate. Eri starts raising 300 amperes, and they start battling again. While Raid realizes that there is no question that they are top-class heroes, he tells Fino that he is sure she doesn't want to let either of them be executed, and at this rate, they'll eliminate each other. He further says that they both spoke of their dreams together and now they will eliminate each other. Fino is the only person who can save them and Raid asks her to choose. On the other hand, Lumdimia and others think that they should split up and search. Suddenly, a dragon-like monster flies overhead and launches an attack on their location. Lore and the elderly men swiftly intervene, asserting their expertise in handling magical items and confidently managing the lightning strikes. Klein, who is riding with the monster, notices Syrah standing nearby. She immediately questions him about Fino's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Syrah begins calculating the damage inflicted on their business due to the interference, along with the compensation and additional pay required because they have been up all night, concerned about the situation. On the other hand, Raoul and Eri keep on fighting. She asks him why he is protecting the Demon Lord's daughter, as he wanted to be a hero. Eri further mentions that they are almost at their limits and he should get out of the way. Furthermore, her dream of becoming a hero is gone, and she is forced to wear that bunny outfit, and if she lets this demon go, she wouldn't have anything left at all. They both use their special moves and attack each other. Seeing the aftermath, Raoul is on the ground in a bad state and Fino thinks she would have just become the Demon Lord. As her tears go inside the Bloodstone, Raid realizes the Bloodstone is resonating with Fino, and a new Demon Lord will be born today. Meanwhile, Eri wakes up and realizes that she would have lost if Raoul used a real sword. She then goes to Raoul, but he tells her that he needs to go after Fino. Eri insists on going with him when suddenly, Raid comes, telling them that this wouldn't be necessary since the hero system will return. Raoul tells him he knows what type of hero he wants to be. People who try to make a world where humans and demons can smile together are heroes. Raid activates his ability, saying he won't be needed in a world that will soon welcome a new Demon Lord. Suddenly Syrah sucks his attack, and the others come as well. Syrah tells Raoul to leave this to them and go save Fino. As Raoul and others go out, the old men are already present, offering to give them a lift. Back at the school, Syrah keeps on testing her new products on Raid, overwhelming and making him look like a fool. Meanwhile, back on the ship, Lumdimia tells everyone that there are Demon Lord's regrets in the volcano and if Fino touches them, she will awaken her powers. Everyone is on their way to the volcano where Fino is present. The dragon manages to defend them from all the volcanic rocks. All the movement makes Raoul bury his face in Eri's plot when suddenly, the dragon crashes. The projectiles then start heading towards the town and everyone is advised to hide indoors. Meanwhile, Visor and Nova are watching the news from the shop, hoping that the others are doing fine. He decides to shut down the shop to avoid the fatty weeb from before and his buddies. They all overwhelm the store, attacking Nova in the process. Meanwhile, Lore is fixing their vehicle and Lumdimia hears some monsters in the cave. She takes out a sword and decides to confront them, but Eri steals the sword and compliments it. Suddenly, all the vampire bats reveal themselves and Eri starts slashing them with the new sword. Raid comments on how Fino will be completely awakened and become the Demon Lord, but Syrah pours boiling water on him, advising him to stay out of Raoul's way. Elsa then starts suggesting him a steam iron to take care of his face, making Raid confused. Meanwhile, Lore gets the dragon craft to work again but can't guarantee it can withhold the next attack. They then notice a ton of demons and they start attacking Raoul. The dragon takes care of a few of them using an attack and one of the demons throws Raoul's weapon away. They then start to try and break the ship, resulting in them crashing into the forest. Lumdimia then mentions that they have to enter the volcano and Raoul notices that Lore has hurt herself. She asks them to leave her behind and gives Raoul a sword that Syrah's brother apparently used. The creepy old man takes Lore away and is quite happy with her melons touching his back. Elsewhere, Eri along with Raoul starts fighting the demons and Lumdimia also gives them a hand. They then enter the volcano and are confronted by a skeleton army. Raoul begins slashing them one by one and feels as if he is a hero again. Suddenly, a giant demon emerges from the ground and Eri gets on top of it, stabbing its face while Raoul uses his slash to make it crash into the mountain. Meanwhile, Lemdimia uses his powers to open the door and close the door once they are inside to buy them some time. Both Eri and Lemdimia decide to fight the monsters, but Raoul tries to change their minds. However, Eri reminds him that he is a hero as well and should be focusing on saving Fino. This results in Raoul apologizing and making his way inside. He runs while yelling Fino's name and eventually comes face to face with her. He reminds her of her work, resulting in her throwing Raoul away. He keeps on trying to change her mind, but Fino takes out a sword and attacks Raoul once again. He then comments on how Fino shouldn't become a demon lord and starts dashing towards her, managing to block her attack. He then reminds Fino of her customers, making her attack him once again. This time, Raoul keeps on saying the phrases he taught her. The two of them keep on fighting while Raoul keeps on repeating those phrases. He eventually throws her sword away, and Raoul reminds Fino who she really is, making her come back to her senses. Just then, her body starts acting on her own while she asks Raoul to save her. The door behind them starts opening, but Raoul struggles to keep it closed. Sadly, Fino's eyes turn red again and she starts choking the life out of him while crying at the same time. Raoul grabs her hands and talks about how hard she has been working to learn how to work at the shop. This made him a little jealous, but he was sure that she would become a great employee. Suddenly, Raoul shows Fino her resume, turning her back to herself as she starts remembering everything. Raoul gives her a hug, which results in the thing on her chest breaking. Fortunately, he returns to her original self and gives Raoul a hug as well. Outside, Eri and Lemdimia notice that it's over and the old man is glad as well. Raid also decides to withdraw, but Sira gives him an invoice, making him pay by card. At night, everyone is having a drink together and they all welcome Fino back. They all then start to argue about who had to go through the worst, and Sira suggests eating some food. Fino accidentally gives him hot food, burning his mouth, and he yells at her to blow on it first. The next day, Fino is back at the shop and starts selling products in a horrifying fashion. She thinks that Raoul might scold her, but he was just fine as the customer bought the product. He calls her a perfect employee, making her dance while the old fart squeezes Nova's rice cakes. Elsa also arrives, asking for rice cooker catalogs and shows him a discount voucher that she got from Sira. Undimia mentions how Elsa will make lunch with it. Fino then starts bragging about her being the perfect employee, and simultaneously, Sira arrives to introduce the new worker. Turns out, the new employee is Eri, and Sira asks Fino to help her out. Meanwhile, Eri tells Raoul that she hasn't given up on becoming a hero and is only doing this job until that time arrives. This was all about Leon employees. Do you think Raoul will ever get a chance to act like a hero again? Comment Fino below if you'd like to buy something from Leon as well. Make sure to like and subscribe. See you guys in the next video.